Hi guys, how are you doing? Welcome to my channel. My name is Esther, and in this channel I make faith-based content. If you're interested in such kind of content, be sure to subscribe, like, and also share. In the previous video I talked about Queen Esther chapter 3, and today we are going to proceed with chapter 4. And just a background story. In this chapter now, Queen Esther gets to know about the plot by Haman that Haman wanted to destroy the Jewish people, and now she's faced with a choice of either risking her life or staying silent. So today we're gonna read Esther chapter 4. Stick around with me till the end. Let's read. Mordecai pursues Esther to help. When Mordecai learned all of that had been done, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and went out into the city, wailing loudly and bitterly. But he went only as far as the king's gate, because no one clothed in sackcloth was allowed to enter it. In every province to which the edict and order of the king came, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting, weeping, and wailing. Many lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Esther's eunuch and female attendants came and told her about Mordecai, she was in great distress. She sent clothes for him to put on instead of his sackcloth, but he would not accept them. Then Esther summoned Hathach, one of the king's eunuchs assigned to attend her, and he ordered him to find out what was troubling Mordecai and why. So Hathach went out to Mordecai in the open square of the city in front of the king's gate. Mordecai told him everything that had happened to him, including the exact amount of money Haman had promised to pay in the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the text of the edict for their annihilation, which had been published in Susa, to show Esther and explain it to her. And he told him to instruct her to go into the king's presence to beg for mercy and plead with him for her people. Hathach went back and reported to Esther what Mordecai had said. Then she instructed him to say to Mordecai, "All the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, the king has but one law, that they be put to death unless the king extends the golden scepter to them and spares their lives. But 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king." When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer: "Do not think that because you're in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai: "Go gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish." So Mordecai went away and carried out all of Esther's instructions. Key themes that arise in this chapter, and the first theme is courage and risk. Courage and risk. So here Esther is faced with a lot of challenges and thoughts, like, what am I supposed to do in this situation? My cousin wants me to rise up and to speak up against Mordecai, and she's either supposed to stay silent because no one knows she's a Jewish, or step up and talk on behalf of her people. And that takes a lot of risk, because now you don't know whether you can be deployed or dethroned, because everyone is against the Jewish, including Haman. So it takes a lot of courage. And so, have you been in a situation where the stakes are so high and that the smallest misstep you could take could cost you everything? It could cost you losing a job. It could cost you losing your life. It could cost you losing a lot of money. It could cost you losing friends and family. Yeah, and that's the place where Esther stands in that moment. Her courage isn't blind, though, it's calculated, and we're going to talk about the calculation she did, because she saw that this is a very big thing. This is a king I'm going to approach, and how am I going to approach this king? Number 2, faith and trust. So faith and trust comes in the place where Mordecai talks to Esther, sends information to be told to Esther, and he tells her, perhaps you were born for such a time as this. This highlights the concept of divine timing and purpose. Sometimes the challenges we face and the positions we hold are part of a bigger plan, even when you don't see the full picture. So I think Mordecai thought about it, and he was like, don't you see this as an opportunity for you to stand before the queen, the king, and to get favor, But he told her, perhaps you are born for such a time as this. Faith and trust. He believes in her, and he tells us, this is your time, and you need not to sit on it. And if you sit on it, someone else will rise up and overtake you. So I was just reflecting, how many times in our lives have we felt like we're in the right place at the right time, even though it didn't seem like it at first. Yeah, it doesn't seem like you're in the right place doing the right thing, but the surrounding around you is like, no, this is not it, but that was the place where Esther was in, and Mordecai had a lot of faith and trust in her. And then the next theme is standing up for others. Esther is forced to choose between her safety and standing up for those who can't stand for themselves. Remember, Mordecai and the Jews were outside the gate, like uko nje, and then Esther is inside, because Esther actually sent one of her attendants she was given by the king to take care of her, and he sent him to go and talk to Mordecai. And so she's in the palace, but then the Jews are outside, and so she's supposed to stand up for herself and the Jews, or be selfish and just think about herself and being in the palace, which is not a place, a safe place to be. It takes a lot of risk, and she stood up for herself and others in the long run. So how can we relate this in our lives today? Actually, it's easy to stay silent, but sometimes we need to speak up, whether it's in the workplace, in relationships, in our communities, because the difference we make might be bigger than what we realize. So let's say someone in your workplace is like Haman, and he's like very, very, very selfish, thinks about himself, and also trying to get favor before the king, and manipulates the king and changes a story in a certain sense. Are you able to stand up for yourself and your fellow employees against that person who is going to speak falsely about your friends? Are you going to stand up for yourself, or are you going to keep quiet? Another thing is Mordecai's influence. Mordecai doesn't force Esther to go to the king. He just persuades her to go and approach the king and to talk to him and to ask him to fight and to save the people. He doesn't say just, can you just go and save us? Because, Mordecai was older than Esther, but he doesn't talk to Esther disrespectfully. He asks her to save herself and also the Jews. And this shows how much Mordecai had faith in Esther in that period of time. It shows how Mordecai's influence in Esther was was very, very big. He had a lot of influence on Esther. And Mordecai's approach teaches us that guidance often comes through perspective. He doesn't pressure her, he empowers her to make a choice, which is what leaders often do when helping others make important decisions. They just give you options, then they tell you choose what you want to choose. And maybe that's the way Esther rose up and became successful. Okay, yeah. And then the next one is the power of prayer and fasting. So before Esther goes to the king, she notices how big this decision is and how magnificent it is, and she was like, whoa, I can't just go like this. I need to involve a higher power. I need to prepare myself spiritually. And she decides to fast and pray. Fasting and prayer is a powerful tool for seeking God's guidance and strength in the face of uncertainty. Have you found yourself in a situation where you need to do something big, you need to do a project, you need to just do something, apply for that job, and you don't know how you're gonna get, or you have applied for a job, you have applied for whatever, think of anything, you have done something, and you really don't know how to handle it. Have you ever thought of fasting and praying as a way of preparing for a positive outcome? I don't know whether you've done that before. You can let me know in the comment section. So fasting and prayer are ways to align ourselves to God's will, especially when you're facing difficult or life-changing decisions. Just like Esther, we can draw strength from our faith when unsure of the outcome. So if you're a believer, you're a Christian, and you have a lot of uncertainties around you, it's high time to copy Esther and fast and pray. Take some days, let's say 2-3 days, fast and deny yourself that food and pray and ask for God's intervention in that situation you are. Yeah. And then now I think the application I took here was that it's not about just being a queen or being in a high place. No, it's not about that. It's about us individuals in our state being how can we make brave decisions today? How can we make brave decisions today? You may have a petite body, you may have, you may look small in the face of the people around you, but standing up for someone, even with your petite physique, it might save a life, might help someone, might be an advantage for you, okay? And so I would love you to share with me, when have you been in a position where you had to take a risk or make a brave decision for the greater good? When have you been in a position where you had to take a risk or make a brave decision for the greater good? And let me know what happened, what really happened after you did that. And as I conclude, Esther's bravery in the face of danger shows us that when the situation seems impossible, we can make a difference with courage and faith. You can always make a decision with courage and faith, not intimidation. Don't be intimidated by the people around you. Make a decision with courage and faith that this is what God is guiding me. And also trust in the word of God. Apply what Esther did. You can decide to fast and pray. You can decide to say, if I perish, I perish. Because life is about taking risks, Approach that great person you're afraid of approaching and see what will happen, okay? Yeah. And so my closing question is, what's one thing that you can do to make a difference in someone else's life, even if it feels risky or uncomfortable? What's one thing you can do today to make a difference in someone else's life, even if it feels very, very uncomfortable and risky? You will feel like someone is throwing mud at you, but what's one thing that you think can make a difference? You can let me know in the comment section. If you've watched this video till this end, thank you so much for watching today's video. I thank you so much. Engage with me in the comment section. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Like this video and also share. See you in the next video. Remember to read your Bible and pray every day. Ciao.